Hello everyone and welcome to another Total War mod overview episode, and today we have a look at a interesting mod for Total War Rome 2, and this is the Marius versus Sulla mod. And if you don't know about the historical context, this is basically the Roman Civil War that happened before the famous Civil War of Caesar and his successor Octavian, but this is basically what happened before that. So we had two powerful generals in Rome who had a lot of political falling out, and Marius and Sulla would end up at war with each other. You can play as Marius as Rome, because Marius managed to defeat the Cimbri, the Teutons, as you can tell, and he had leadership against Jugurtha in Numidia. And then there's Sulla, who fought against the Mithridates of Pontus. You can also play as Parthia, which is now a very powerful empire. Armenia, under Tigranes the Great. Then the kingdom of Pontus, led by Mithridates. Then there's the Seleucids, which is basically just a tiny fraction of his former self. And then Egypt. So let's just jump in as Sulla, because it's about Marius versus Sulla. And historically, what would happen is Marius would just eventually die, just out of age, and then Sulla would become the dictator. But the war had lasting effects. The war between Marius and Sulla had lasting effects that would lead to the other civil war of Caesar, Pompey, because Caesar and Pompey during this time, they were contemporaries under Marius and Sulla. We can just skip this because that's just the Imperator Augustus.
Now you have the chance to...
Don't worry about that. So you have the objective issued, because at Sulla, you only start with several armies. But you have like a ton of money anyway. So like you're surrounded by like a lot of enemies. So we have Marius's Rome against you. There's the kingdom of Pontus, led by Mithridates. And pretty much everyone's at war with you. So that's kind of the situation if you're playing as Sulla. You need to march on Rome and take it. You do control some islands on the coast over here. But Pontus, you're at war with Pontus as well. So you're basically locked on both sides between the powerful Marius and a powerful Pontus, led by Mithridates. But like this time period is very pivotal towards Roman history. So we're going to look at a couple more campaigns. Let's look at Marius's starting position. And then after that we'll probably look at Pontus and maybe the Seleucids, because just to see, like, because the Seleucids during this time are just very weak after losing wars to the Parthians and the Armenians. There's like several different time periods in Roman history that I wish were actually in the game, such as Marius versus Sulla, Caesar's Civil War. I mean, we have Caesar, but we only have Caesar in
From
Gaul.
your central...
We don't have like Caesar's Civil War. I would like Marius and Sulla, Caesar's Civil War, the Year of the Four Emperors, the Year of the Five Emperors. Constantine should be in the game, but there is an excellent mod called Constantine Rise of Christianity. And then there's also... well, that's pretty much most of it. But like, this is Marius' starting position. You have a lot of territory in the west under your hegemony. Gaius Marius, you control Rome, and you're at war with Sulla. But like, the problem is, because like, it's Rome 2 AI, so Sulla's probably gonna get like trashed at the beginning if you move against him, and then like Pontus moves against him as well. Because like, apparently you're actually friendly with Pontus. You have a client state in Numidia and in the Mari, and then you're like surrounded by a bunch of Gauls and barbarian tribes. So that's kind of Marius' starting position. Let's check out Pontus. because Pontus was also pivotal during this time period. Because I kind of want, the reason why I'm gonna check the Seleucids after, because I want to see if Judea is actually a faction, because it might have been during this time that the Judeans rebelled against their Seleucid overlords, or maybe it was after or before, who knows, but I have a feeling that I didn't see Judea marked as controlled by Egypt or the Seleucids, so I kind of just want to see. Okay, so Pontus, you do control like pretty much most of Anatolia, or all of Anatolia, and like pretty much all of mainland Greece as well, which is kind of historically inaccurate because, yeah, it's not very entirely accurate. Pontus, you have Mithridates as your king. Starting off, you're allied with Tigranes the Great of Armenia. There's Palmyra down there. Then there's the Seleucids, who are weak. Then there's the massive Parthian Empire. So that's kind of your starting position. You're at war with Sulla, of course. Now let's just check out the Seleucids. Because now the Seleucids are very weak due to years and years of disastrous war against Parthia, and after the Judean rebellion, or the Maccabean rebellion, that's kind of like the final, that kind of determined the eventual fate of the Seleucids. Just skip this intro, like... Okay, Judea does actually exist. That's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's the Imperator Augustus campaign, but yeah, that is pretty cool because Judea did actually get its independence. Then we have Egypt, but Egypt's pretty much also a shadow of its former self, despite having a lot of territory. They're pretty weak. You only control, like, pretty much, how many, like, 3 settlements as the Seleucids. And you don't have any client states to help you. But you do get, like, decent units at the beginning. You can march, you could probably, like, march against Palmyra. If I were, like, playing as the Seleucids, I would just stay away from these guys. And then march against the weak faction, try to regain some of that power. Then, like, maybe take on Egypt or whoever. But that's kind of your starting position if you're playing as the Seleucids. This is where I'll end it, and I'll see you all in the next one.